Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sam. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's the first time we meet.
Yes, it's the first time we meet.
Sam McCone and McCone Properties.
Yeah.
Are you the only owner of your company in Dubai?
No, I'm not. I have two partners, Arsene and Yassir. Mm-hmm. So two friends of mine from when I was a teenager. We used to play tennis together in Barcelona. So they moved over to Dubai 7 years ago and worked with the company, and then slowly they became eventually partners of the business as well.
What made McCone so successful is one of the best player in this real estate market, no?
So the company's actually 10 years old. And we definitely haven't been a big player for very long. So the first 7 years that I owned the business, up until 2020, we were a very small family business. So I set up the business and my mum and dad joined shortly after. Good. I was only 23 years old, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And we always maintained a relatively small company, so never more than 10 people in total. And we did good business. We sold a lot of properties off plan and ready, and downtown was an area we used to focus on, and Ema was a developer we used to focus on. And it was successful but small. And then when COVID hit, we realized that when you're small, you're vulnerable, right? Because all of a sudden you have a few people that maybe don't make much money during that period. Your costs are still the same, they don't change. So we decided that we wanted to change our approach a little bit. So we really started to grow the business. So since October 2020, we've gone from about 12 people, we now have close to 150.
Wow.
Yeah, it's obviously been a great time to expand. A lot of companies have taken advantage of probably one of the best real estate markets in the world, and seen a lot of people from overseas come here to Dubai to invest in property, to become real estate agents. So we've been one of the companies that's participated in that, and it's allowed us to become the company we are today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The dimension is very important for competition, even if I trust in the niche, probably because I'm Italian, and we are the country of small companies. We all are artisan, and we all think that we are the best to do things in the way we do. So, so it depends. Yeah, I always, even as an investor here in Dubai, I always try to find something that represents a niche, an angle, particular angle, when it comes to select a property or to put my money in a real estate project.
Yeah, I think there's a different approach in Europe than there is in Dubai. I spent a couple of months this summer in different parts of Europe, and you can see, exactly as you're saying, a lot of small businesses in different parts of the city. And you know, without speaking with them, you know that that real estate company will be very specialized in that area, that one in that area. Here in Dubai, you really start to make money when you have coverage of the city, right? Because you've got buyers for downtown, Dubai Marina, off-plan ready. And if you leave anything on the table, you could potentially be missing out. So there is a lot of pressure for company owners to expand, to grow their footprint. Whereas I think in places like Europe, they tend to go for the more conservative approach of having a good business in a niche market where they know, you know, the downside will be quite limited, but the upside might be as well.
Anyway, consider that in some cases, relationships are important. For example, I prefer to work with people I know or I met during my social life or during the event. Don't understand how it works when a broker wanna find other customers. Is it difficult in Dubai?
It can be difficult, and it can be quite easy. So it's very dependent on the person's character. So essentially, when you are starting out as a broker, many cases you start with nothing, right? You might be new to the city, you have no contacts, you literally have no one. So how do they go from that to hopefully being
and no salary?
No salary as well, right? So commission-based, which catches a lot of people by surprise.
Very hard beginning.
Absolutely. Basically, what they need to do is find ways to interact with as many people as possible. And they do this in several ways. One of the ways would be prospecting. So they might go through the company's database, right, to old contacts that exist on that database.
But those leads were used and used.
Maybe.
And I received three calls a day.
Maybe, but you know, the interesting thing about it is that it works. People seem in Dubai, you might have 100 people that you're reaching out to, 99 of them will not be interested in working with you, but you just need that one. And that one might be someone like yourself who has a big portfolio and wants to sell that portfolio. And that's the beauty of it, is that it's not about needing to have hundreds of people on the books. It's about having a good solid 10 or 20 that you're able to work with, because they could be enough to sustain an entire career.
Do you suggest young people to start becoming a broker in Dubai?
Absolutely. I think
there is space enough again?
No, there isn't.
Right? How many agents?
People
10,000, 20,000?
Yeah, a lot of numbers get floated around, right? It's tough to know for sure. I think if you go onto Property Finder and you look at the number of people that have licenses, I think it's maybe 6,000, 6,500. And there's a lot of brokers, and as a result, there's a lot of people who are not successful, right? It's like any industry, right? It's the power law. There's always going to be 10, 20% that make 80, 90% of all the money, right? And it's no different in real estate. If anything, it's more extreme. But that doesn't mean that new people can't be successful, because a lot of the times what you find with the older people within the industry is they become somewhat complacent, right? Or they already have their clients, so they stop doing the prospecting. So there's definitely room to still succeed. I think the market is saturated, but I don't think that means that there's there's a huge obstacle for new people coming in. In McCone Properties, we have what's called a training academy. So we hire people with no experience and no knowledge of Dubai. And this month, we have had 2 of our agents one lady has made over 800,000 dirhams in gross commission, and she came to Dubai less than 3 months ago. And another agent has made 1.6 million dirhams, and it's going to be over 2 million dirhams if she closes her deal. And she moved to Dubai 4 months ago. This is life-changing numbers, right? And they work exceptionally hard, those ladies, and they've done a very good job of making those kind of contacts, but it shows you what's possible. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that everyone in our company is making that kind of money. There are many agents who are making zero, and they will need to find a way to adjust, to improve, or they will fail and they will move out of real estate, and it will leave room for other people to come in and try again. That is just the harsh reality of this industry. I think it's a great job, because I think even if you fail, you learn a lot of lessons, but that's just the reality of it.
Personally speaking, I love and hate brokers, honestly.
You love them because they bring you buyers, right?
I mean, authorized brokers, because even my dentist and my taxi driver, very often they suggest me some property to buy. Okay. But when it comes in finance, for example, or many of us, like me, we hate banks. Okay. We hate someone that stay in the middle. I want to put my money in your bank account, or in your pocket, and I have to ask, please, bank, can you provide to send my money to Sam? When it comes to buy goods, we prefer to save some money and go on Amazon or Alibaba or JD. And why in real estate I need the middleman?
That's a great question.
That takes a lot of money. Yeah. It's a lot.
So if you look at the last 50 years, the technology space has done a lot of effort to cut out the middleman, right? So ever since we started having these massive hypermarkets like Walmart in the US, right? Instead of having small shops, they have one big shop. It reduces the cost in the middle. And now you have the internet, which has allowed Amazon, you name it, right? It exists. But real estate has stuck, right? And it seems to be sticking more and more, right? Because today agents are making more money than they've ever made. And obviously a part of that is the market, but in many ways the percentage is getting larger, right? Now I believe that it's because there's a lack of conformity and consistency amongst the real estate as a product. It's very difficult to find a marketplace where buyers can have a clear transparency of what's available in the market. So as a result, if they want to see what the best product is for them, they need that person in the middle to help facilitate them. And it works the same on the seller's side. The seller cannot just put a property on the market and expect visibility with all the buyers. It doesn't work that way, right? They need a good agent that's going to make sure that that product is seen across the market and seen across all different platforms. And one of the things that always surprises me is that buyers and sellers come from all different parts, right? A lot of our leads that we convert come from the portal, so Property Finder, Bayut, Dubizzle, but it's still less than 50%. About 30-40% is our existing clientele, right? So these are people that we as a company are putting together, buyers and sellers. But many times it's very random, right? It might be social media, or it might be a personal contact, or whatever. So there's many ways in which brokers are connecting buyers and sellers, and a seller doesn't want to limit themselves to how many buyers they can possibly have, and a buyer doesn't want to limit themselves to how many possible properties they can have access to. So they use the brokers as that middleman because of the access it gives. And you've been in property for a long time. You continue to use brokers. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, because there are no alternatives. For example, if I want to list my properties, I cannot. I need a broker license. Come on, is not this kind of mafia?
Well, it's because the portals themselves are making a lot of money, right? So,
but it's my property. Come on.
It is your property.
Why cannot advertise my property by myself?
I mean, it would make sense. It would be logical. But if you think of Property Finder, right? You are not their client. I'm their client, right? My business gives X amount of money to them as a platform each year. It's a lot more money than you might think. They've got 1,600 such paying customers. And if they started to allow buyers and sellers to operate independently on their platform without the brokers, they would actually be working against their actual clients. So the way the whole system is set up is going to keep the status quo going, right? It would only change if the interested parties somehow changed, but that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon.
You gave me an idea.
Okay.
To create a new platform, peer-to-peer, landlord to landlord, cutting the middleman.
It's been tried many times.
Why not?
There are websites overseas which are allowing owners to list directly. They tend to fail. There's a lot more effort that goes into selling real estate than I think people see on the surface. A lot of an agent's time is spent just convincing owners to put their property up for sale. If you remove the agent, that doesn't exist, right? There's a lot of time spent with buyers going around showing them different options. If you get rid of the agent, that doesn't exist. A lot of buyers and sellers might only see the last step that happens, right? Maybe I've got a buyer that comes to me, I show him one property, he likes that property, he makes an offer, we agree a sale. He doesn't realize that in order for me to get the seller to come to a reasonable level, I might have had to show that property 10 times to different buyers and then talk the seller down. So I used to think like you're thinking right now, but the more I've done this job, and the more I've seen the difference between a good broker and an average broker and the impact that a good broker can have, the more difficult I think it's going to be for there to be a system that's going to somehow change that. Could
artificial intelligence change something? Come on.
I think
some bot could make a part of the job, or the metaverse. I can arrange a viewing in a virtual space.
I think the more likely outcome is that AI is going to assist the good brokers. So they're going to give more information on the fingertips of those that know what to do with it. So imagine I'm a very good broker and I get a client that comes to me and says that they're looking for a 2-bedroom investment for 2 million. They want something that's on the water, and they want something that's in a building that's been completed in the last 2 years. I think AI could serve as collecting the data that might be needed to find those properties and then giving it to the broker, so that the broker can then pass that on to the buyer in a way that's digestible, right? Because there's so much information out there, and a lot of the times what AI does is that it gives you just the sales pitch constantly of everything that's coming across, whereas it doesn't matter who the developer is, they're always going to come up with a beautiful brochure, a beautiful project. The reality is that there's smaller details that need to be known, and so the agent will have to take that information that's coming from the AI, then sort of put it together in a way that's going to make sense to the buyer, and actually giving their perspective on the recommendations that are being made.
I'm a big fan of PropTech, FinTech. I think the AI will change a lot. Finally, the oldest industry in the world, that is real estate. No? I don't want to insist, but regarding the cost of the middleman, and I say that because I'm a finance guy, and as an investor, I have to evaluate the cost of transaction with all respect. So I confirm that I love brokers when they add value to me, no? Or in a transaction or in a negotiation. There are also different cultures that should meet, and broker can facilitate a lot this kind of dialogue. But when I send one Bitcoin, I say, oh, I need to pay a gas fee of $100. Wow, a lot. Yeah. When I pay a transaction with the bank, a wire transfer, or buy my insurance, I have to pay fees. When I buy real estate, I'm buying the most expensive good or product that I can buy ever in my life. Nothing costs, no cars cost like an apartment or a penthouse. But I have to consider 2%, 3%, 5% sometimes from the developer side. Yeah. Something more if something is hidden, don't want to know. Yeah. What I'm worried about is that this cost is a cost that I, as a buyer, I'm paying in addition to the fair value, because for sure no one sell an apartment or a property for less than a fair value. I'm not speaking of bargain or distressed asset. That's another case. Yeah. But in the equilibrium of the market, there is a fair value. I am available to sell my 2-bed apartment because, in my opinion, benchmarking the market and what's available today, I can ask 7 million, for example. But if I have to pay 5%, I'm losing from the sell side. If even worse, I'm buying for 7.3, 7.4. And if I add also the transfer tax 4%, are 7, 8 points. How many years I have to wait and I have to keep in my portfolio that property to count on a capital appreciation that fill that gap? What do you think? It's a different perspective. I don't know if you thought something like that.
So the first thing I'd say is you're a finance guy, numbers guy. The market, right? The market determines it. So when I started real estate, a developer would never pay more than 2.5%. Now, developers are paying 5, 6, 7. Why? Competition.
Competition.
Right? We as brokers are more valuable than ever. So it goes completely against this whole idea that we're going to be replaced. And the thing that is underestimated massively is the influence that brokers can have over their buyers. So if you have got real estate that you need to sell, and I have got a pool of buyers in my company, in my own portfolio, you name it, these people trust me. And I've got the option. if you're coming to me and saying, offer them this product that I have for sale, but I'm going to pay you 2%, and someone else is offering 4%, naturally a broker is going to first be inclined to go to that person offering them 4%. Now, there's a fine balance, right? If I, as a broker, would always be putting the commission ahead of what's actually good for my client, then I will start to lose my clients.
Yeah.
Right. So then,
understand.
Instead of having a lot of buyers, all of a sudden I have less buyers. I've made some good money, but I've sold out. So this is where market comes in. And this is why a lot of the times you see brokers will come in and they'll do very, very good business for 1 year, 2 years, and then they go. Right, they're no longer there a couple of 3 years in, and you think, what happened? Right, they were doing so well. It's rare to find brokers that have done the job for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, because a lot of the times those people haven't given themselves a chance to do this sort of repeat client, and they've gone for the easy wins, they've gone for the quick money, right? And sometimes the value for the clients in the long term exists in the properties that might not pay as much commission, right? But if you think that that's going to go somehow, I personally think that it would be great if there was a system that did somehow connect buyers and sellers closer together, but the forces seem to be suggesting differently, right? Because the developers are also making their money, right? They have their profit margin. So if they're able to pay a broker 5%, it means that they've got enough in it, right? They've got enough profit before they... So what is fair value, right? Is it fair value for a developer to make 50% profit? I don't know. It's a question, right? As long as the market's willing to pay it, then yes, it is fair value, right? And that's the ultimate decider.
I understand your conflict of interest in that also a bit, and understand the point that competition creates this opportunity. But anyway, what I think is that protecting buyers is the main value for the developers, for brokers, because buyer is someone that is approaching your product, even when he's a professional investor. And honestly, I don't meet many professional investors in the real estate market. They prefer to buy financial products like REITs, for example, more than properties that needs to be managed. But I think that should be create a regulation to be more transparent, and also for matching the correct needs of the broker and interest of the broker and of the developer with something that is moral and ethically correct.
I think it's all about how mature a market is, right? So Dubai's real estate market is exceptionally exciting, but it's only 20 years old, right? The first real estate was sold 2001, 2002. So what we're facing right now is a situation where we still don't know a lot about this market in the long run, right? We don't know what the price per square foot should be, right? Is 2,000 dirhams per square foot fair? 1,000, 5,000? Dubai as a city is still positioning itself. It could be the best city in the world. It could fall somewhere in the top 20. We don't know. There's so many variables that are at play, right?
I agree.
What we do know is that we seem to be moving forward. Every single year there seems to be more regulation that's coming in, and investors are getting wiser, brokers are getting wiser, and I believe that in the future we're going to find a market which is more in line with what you expect. Now, when you mature the market, when you have an exceptionally regulated market, you also limit the upside, right? It's not going to be as accessible for everyone to come in and make easy money, right? Yeah. If you try and limit how much people can lose, you also limit how much they can make, right? It's just natural. So for now, what I suggest to clients is that they take their time, right? They speak with the right people, right? I would like to think that those are good brokers, and hopefully at McCone Properties we have a few of those good brokers, but they also do their due diligence on the developments that they're buying, on who who the developers are, what their track record is, where it's located, right? Is this an area that's done well in the past? And the thing is that buyers do also have a lot of this information at their disposal. They just sometimes are almost too trusting, right? They just believe everything that their broker says. You know, I've seen the situation a lot where a buyer will buy something in downtown and there'll be a plot in front of the building that they're buying and they've got a Burj Khalifa view, and the broker will say, oh, that plot is going to be a park, right? You'll always have a Burj Khalifa view. And obviously, you know, 6 months later, Emaar launches a tower and their view is going to get blocked. And if they had spoken to a couple of brokers, they probably could have learnt about that, right? Because the information is out there. But sometimes you're going to have situations where brokers will just say whatever they need to say to get the deal over the line. And unfortunately, that's still, you know, the market that we deal with today. So I think it's a great market to buy in. You can make a lot of money, you can do very well, but you can also have quite a bad experience if you get the wrong advice and you trust the wrong people.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
No worries. I appreciate it. Thank you.